switch hats. You put it on me, and I'll put this on you. Oh, you look pretty good. There's something under your hat. $500. That's real money.
I got accepted to a college out of the country, so I had a long flight that day. When I finally got there, the college administration gave me the keys to my apartment. I found out I had a roommate too, and her name was Jaden. She was very nice and kind, and we talked for a while. I was tired from the flight, so I decided to get to bed early. That night, I had a dream that I was falling from a great height. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of someone crying. I didn't think much of it, since Jaden was a sensitive person, and it was her first time away from her family. But then, I realized I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, and Jaden was still crying. When I woke up the next morning, I looked over at Jaden and saw that she was terrified, as if she'd seen a ghost. I asked her, "Why were you crying last night?" And then she said, "There was a tall black figure right beside your bed, and that thing was watching you sleep, and then it crawled on you and just laid there." I didn't believe her until she showed me a picture. It was of me sleeping and that thing on top of me. She said, "I was crying, but that thing didn't go away." I realized that was why I couldn't move, because that creature had been on me. I soon moved out of there, and so did Jaden. But 2 years later, Jaden was found dead in her house. The police found out that she had been scared to death. That thing is still haunting me to this day. There's a hole in my brain.
When I was in college, I was a heavy partier. I would go to just about every house party I heard about, and I got to know a lot of people in that crowd. Or at least I think I did. I wasn't one of those jocks or anything. I was just one of those people that like to drink and have better memories of the beginnings of parties than I do the middle or end. I usually went by myself, hoping to meet people there. But a lot of the time, the only thing I got to know was the bottom of the bottle. One night, my drinking habit almost got me into serious trouble. I was at this guy named Larry's house. He was a bit of a geek, but somehow he had the privilege of having this huge house right off campus that was perfect for partying. This particular night was the third or fourth time I'd gone to a party at Larry's. They were always a blast. It was packed every time, and that night was even crazy. It was a New Year's party. Everybody was there, starting from the football team, the jocks, the cheerleaders, the frat boys, all the sorority girls, plus the cloud chasers like me, and just about every kind of person you can imagine. There was a hot tub and a pool, and the most fun thing to do was to climb on the roof and jump into the pool with a cannonball or something. But nobody was allowed to jump from the second floor balcony. That was Larry's one forbidden rule. No matter how packed it got, nobody was ever allowed to go upstairs. Of course, that drew everyone's attention to the unlit staircase around the corner, but nobody dared to break the rule. Larry might have been a nerd, but he was the man in charge of the house, and he had some respect for that. Nobody wanted to be banned from Larry's parties, and neither did I, of course. But unfortunately, I went a little too hard at the New Year's party. I pre-drank by downing a couple beers before I got there. I then grabbed one within the first minute. Then I had another, then another, then another. By the time it was getting close to the New Year, it was on like 8 or 10. The whole house was spinning. And from what I heard about my behavior from others later on, I was pretty belligerent. I was about 5 minutes from passing out when I crashed on the living room couch and went mood. At the time of the night, I could hear all the commotion of people hurrying outside to light fireworks at midnight. I wanted to go out there too, but I knew that amount of movement just wasn't in me. I was the last person in the house, and Larry was hovering over me, trying to get me to go. Hey man, get up. You're gonna miss the fireworks. No man, I'm good. Just leave me here, I'll be alright. Really man? You gonna sleep on the New Year's? Dude, I'm lit as hell. I am not moving. But you're gonna get sick on my couch, aren't you? Come on and throw up outside if you're gonna yak. Hey man, I can hold my liquor. I ain't never thrown up at anybody's house. Just ask anybody, alright? I just need a nap, okay? So just let me be and let me lay down. Alright man, listen to me. You better not go upstairs. You hear me? Yeah. Whatever. Alright, just come outside if you're feeling better. Larry finally left me alone and went out to the backyard. Then, I was alone and about half an inch from blacking out completely. The only thing that kept me conscious was what Larry had just said. What he was always saying about the upstairs. The stairwell was staring right at me, making me wonder why in the world he was so serious about that over all other things. Larry never cared if somebody shattered a $500 vase in their drunkenness, but it was like we all lived in fear of what would happen if somebody went upstairs. The curiosity was killing me, despite being hammered out of my mind. At some point, I heard somebody call out that it was just 5 minutes before midnight. Fireworks were already being set off prematurely, so I felt like there was no better time than then. Despite being unable to even walk, I slid off the couch and crawled on the floor to the stairwell. Then I dragged myself up the steps. I had to stop a few times just to clench my stomach so I wouldn't yak right on the stairs, but I made it up eventually. The landing came out to a long empty hallway that was pitch black. I made out 4 doors along the wall. I crawled along the floor to the first one and reached up to open it. Then I peeked inside. Nothing. Just a normal bedroom, although it didn't look like anyone actually lived in it. I shut the door and made my way over to the next one. Same thing. Just a normal room, except this one was an office. The third room wasn't special either. It was just a completely empty space. All that was left was the 4th door at the far end of the hallway. Whatever the secret was, I thought, it had to be behind that door. I heard muffled screaming from outside, growing louder and louder. I then realized they were just counting down from 10. By then, I already had my hand on the doorbell, but I made it a point in my delirium to wait until the stroke of midnight to try to open the door. I turned the door and it was locked. It's locked. Then, in that exact moment, Larry body slammed me against the door. It was like he came out of nowhere, but by the time I realized what was happening, he was already putting me in some kind of stranglehold. You stupid little snake. Do you have any idea what I'm going to do to you? Hey, Scott, where you at? You good? Get out of here, got someone's couch yet. If there hadn't been that friend of a friend downstairs, I'm sure I would have died right then and there. Thankfully, when Larry heard me calling my name, he let me go. Get the hell out of my house. Don't you even think about coming back unless you have a death wish. Hear me? He said this as he shoved me back towards the other end of the hallway. The adrenaline from the situation sobered me up just enough to stand and stumble down the hall. But as soon as I got to the stairs, I slipped on the first step and fell down the entire staircase. Oh, you okay, man? You need someone to call an ambulance? There was a horrible commotion when everybody saw me hit the floor. The impact was just about the last thing I remember. That friend that saved me ended up calling an Uber and getting me home. Ever since then, I've had to avoid Larry. I always got weird looks from him at school, but I guess I'm better off not partying.